Why is it so hard to give up unhealthy habits and develop healthier ones? Why are we emotionally and mentally addicted to destructive patterns, and how can we step out of them? Stay tuned to find out. Hey everyone, welcome here. This is Becoming an Expert at Self-Leadership. I'm Maika, I'm a psychologist, and one of the videos on this channel that a lot of you have found most interesting and helpful is the one on emotional addiction, and some of you have asked me to talk about it again and add some thoughts to that because it influences our choices every single day. As I've explained in the first video, we want to feel good, and that is what we center our choices around. But what feels good and natural to us may be unhealthy. We may be addicted to a high level of arousal, chronic stress. This is what feels natural to us, what it feels like to be ourselves. So we do things to maintain that high level of arousal. We go out looking for trouble, so to say. Anything that is calmer feels boring and unattractive to us. And whenever we do feel like we need a break, we may not know how to get it in a healthy way, so we can end up using substances, food, or activities like excessive shopping or gaming to numb the exhaustion, pain, anxiety, and depression that goes along with chronic stress. To get out of this, what it comes down to is to replace these unhealthy ways of seeking reward and relief with healthy ones, to create a new default. So the question is, what do you do to make yourself feel better or good? And does this contribute to a chronic high baseline of stress, or is it actually helping you in the bigger picture? One way of looking at our behavior is to see it as an attempt at regulating our system back to balance. Our brains and bodies have several regulatory networks that are constantly active to make sure that we're healthy and in balance. So these systems monitor our inside and the outer world to make sure we have everything we need: food, water, connection, emotional balance. And whenever they notice that something's missing, something's off balance, they send signals to get us back on track. The state of being out of balance, dysregulated, emotionally imbalanced, depleted, it's uncomfortable, it's distressing. So we do something to get out of it, to regulate ourselves back to balance. And we may not have learned how to do that in a healthy way, so we fall back to whatever we've seen to be regulating from what we've learned so far. And that's how we end up seeking relief in hyper-busyness, worrying, compulsive people-pleasing, aggression, self-harm, trauma bonds, overindulgence, and other things. And the problem with these attempts at regulation is that they are harmful. If not in the short term, definitely in the long term. If they have some sort of small regulatory effect, it is short and superficial. Often they don't have a regulatory effect at all. They're just a distraction or add extra weight to the original imbalance of our system. That means our stress level stays elevated chronically. And because so many people are in this situation, we struggle with stress-related diseases, mentally and physically. So if you find yourself in an unhealthy pattern, one way to work through it is to ask yourself, how is this an attempt at regulating myself back to balance? How effective is what I'm doing? How healthy is it long term? Does this really decrease my stress level, short and long term? This is a more in-depth and compassionate way of looking at the behavior that you're wanting to change. It's not that you keep coming back to this because there's something wrong with you, but because you're using this as a more or less effective way of regulating yourself. There's some unfulfilled need there, some pain, some stress, the discomfort of being out of balance, which needs to be taken care of. This also highlights why it's so important to replace unhealthy habits with better ones. Unhealthy habits fulfill certain needs, and if we just try to let go of them without finding a different way of taking care of our need for regulation, we'll be setting ourselves up to fall back into that unhealthy pattern because the need for regulation never goes away. One of the most important elements of a new default of healthy regulation is connection. Authentic, supportive, loving relationships. And I'm not just saying this out of sentimentalism. This is what objective science facts tell us. In order to let go of, overcome, step out of emotional addiction, we need to have the fundament of supportive relationships. And another element that is very regulating is rhythm. Anything that has to do with music, dance, or rhythmic movement like walking, biking, swimming. It could also be watching or listening to the rhythms of nature. This helps us calm down and find back to the rhythm of our system. This is also why babies calm down when they're rocked back and forth. Other activities that can be soothing are play, effective rest, nature, art, stories. This is something we all have to figure out for ourselves. What helps me soothe my systems and be regulated? And here's the thing. These types of healthy ways of regulating our system, relationships, rhythm, self-care, they bring our system back into balance in a deep and effective way that is healthy in the short and long term. And this activates the reward network in our brain. We feel pleasure coming back into balance. So it's not that only unhealthy habits activate the reward network in our brain. In fact, people who have these healthy regulative strategies in place are not as pulled towards unhealthy habits and emotionally addicted to them because their reward network is already activated throughout the day by their regulative strategies. So they're not in this chronic distress of being imbalanced. The unhealthy patterns we're stuck in only seem attractive to a dysregulated system that is chronically stressed and in distress. And the only way we can decrease the lure of these unhealthy patterns and develop healthier ones is if we address the root issue, which is our dysregulated system, and that in an effective way that truly brings it back to balance. So it's a question of which spiral do you want to step into? The one that maintains your dysregulation and reinforces unhealthy coping mechanisms, or the one that truly regulates your system and reinforces healthy regulative habits? I just want to highlight again, Coming back to balance activates the reward network in the brain. It's pleasurable. The only reason activities like these don't have a pull on us is because we haven't allowed ourselves to feel the pleasure that comes from true regulation and balance. The other day, someone told me, since I started prioritizing regular, sufficient sleep, I feel like such a different person. I'm in such a good mood all the time now. And I know that it's not as simple as that for everyone, but the only way we can grow out of emotionally addictive patterns is if we give ourselves the chance again and again to feel how rewarding true regulation is. A part in us may not be attracted to the thought of going for a walk, learning relaxation, breathing, and grounding exercises, meditating, getting to bed on time, taking time off, preparing a healthy meal, investing into a relationship with long talks and lots of listening. But this part in us can learn to be attracted to these things if we give it the opportunity to see how rewarding they are again and again. So by repeated small steps of regulating ourselves in a healthy way, we can develop so much taste for that our old ways won't be able to keep up. We can transfer our urges, emotions, and what we are pulled towards onto things that make us healthy and happy. Just take it one small step at a time, and keep walking with lots of kindness for yourself. Let me know if you have any questions about this or emotional addiction in general. Till next time, take care, and remember that in essence, unhealthy patterns are attempts at regulation and only addictive to a dysregulated system. Once our system is regulated, what we find attractive and rewarding, what we are pulled towards, shifts onto healthy patterns.